Today I start with, again, moving her right away. And sorry for the noise, it was pretty windy today, and especially in this clip or in this session, my camera keeps trying to focus, and so she is being quite soft today. You can tell that when I lift the lead rope and just kind of look at her hind end, she'll yield right away. So again, that's why I like doing that one quick little tug at the start, because it teaches them to be soft pretty quick, and then I don't have to tug at all. So now I went from using the flag to drive her and move her, and now I'm having passive body language and using it to desensitize. Which I let her go on the line for a little bit, moving while I was moving it back and forth over my head like that, but then I helped her out by yielding her and showing her that the correct answer was to stop when my energy is at this level. So now we're a little bit cut off, but I think this is my first time touching her with the flag. I can't remember, I'm editing in between. I'm editing every few days. So I'm just going to go back to taking it away, moving it, and then bringing it up to her, touching her with it, and that's her release, showing her that it's okay, she doesn't have to be afraid of it. And now kind of to bridge the gap, that if she's still tense with me touching the flag to her, she knows that my hand on her head is good and it's a good release. So to kind of bridge that gap and make her understand, I also pat her on the head occasionally. So I do a lot of this, and I also touch all of her body with the flag. Like you can see me go down near her hind legs here. Again, these tools are great to start touching your horses in places that you haven't touched with your hands yet, to get them used to the feeling before you go bend down or go be in a vulnerable spot. You can see she's very tense, but she's also trying her best to accept it and realize it's not going to hurt her, but you do see her flinch quite a bit. And I left this in to show that I still, at some points, am not comfortable bending down near her. So I'll use the whip to help me pick up the lead rope if I leave her sitting for a while. Again, I do a lot of work with her hind legs with this and her front legs, touching it with the flag. And I do all of this so she can realize that the whip is a tool. Technically, this is a flag. I should stop calling it a whip. That the flag is a tool. So right here I go back to moving her with it. So the whole point of this is I want her to respect it but not be afraid of it. So I should be able to touch her anywhere on her body with it and have her be relaxed while I touch her, but I also should be able to use it to help keep the forward momentum. And now we'll go to some rope work. Just like I did in the prior day, I'm going to snake it over her back a bunch. You can tell most of her focus is on me. If you watch her ear, she almost always has that inside ear tilted to me. So in that last clip, it went over her butt, got around her hind legs a little bit. That's when you saw her shift her weight, but she did have overall a pretty good reaction to that. I do everything from both sides, like I've said before, but I'm probably going to just show little bits of each side. That way you don't have to see me repeat everything. Now I'm going to have her walk around with it, dragging behind her and going near her legs. She holds herself together very well, but she definitely is worried about things. Now I'm going to go back to a little bit of tarp work. I think she saw this on day 3 or 4. I just sped this up because I have it in front of her and I was waiting for her to sniff down and check it out on her own before I started making her work around it. Because she's a horse that doesn't really like to reach out and touch things and sniff things, I try to be pretty patient about that because I find if horses can usually investigate a new object or a new situation on their own first, they're a little bit more confident when you ask them to do it with you.
That wasn't fair. No, it wasn't. I know. That wasn't fair. I know it wasn't fair. Good girl. Very brave.
So this is going to be pretty much the same concept as the flag, where I'm going to move it away from her, make some noise, have some movement, and then bring it up to her to touch and rub it on her. Eventually I am going to start shaking it like super close to her pretty loud, that way she can get used to the movement too. Again, I did get a comment on the last video that said something that I just scare my horses with all my tools and then they're just terrified of them, which is kind of the opposite. Of course, initially they're going to be afraid of the tools. They've never seen any of them before, and I do have to come and use some pressure with them because they are extension of my arms. And like I said, if I didn't have the tool a couple times, this mare could have ran me over. But they do need to respect them. I don't want to make them completely desensitized to them, but they need to feel safe around them. So this is in preparation for either getting a rope around her belly to get her used to the feeling of a girth, or for me to girth her up, or for me just to pet under her belly. Going back to what I was saying, this horse is not afraid of the tools. I will not hold that stick up and she would go running across the arena from it. She's not terrified of it. I do not make my horses scared of the tools. If she was really scared, she would be running away from this tarp right now. Instead, you can see she's having relaxation moments right here where I'm scratching her and she's able to release some of her tension. She is still tense with the tarp. I'm not saying in any of these that she's completely okay with any of the items I'm showing her yet. You can see she was holding in her neck in almost all of the clips with the tarp, but she is tolerating it, and in a few days she will be pretty relaxed around them. And I do start working on releases through her pole. So what I do, pretty much where the halter crosses over her pole, I move the halter back a little bit, I just take my hand up there and lightly add pressure with 2 of my fingers. I can either squeeze or go down. You can see she's not really sure. She doesn't really like the pressure up there. As soon as she releases, I take my hand off. So I'm looking for her head to drop a little bit. Now, I don't normally teach the backup this way, but because I don't want this mare, I don't want to be near this mare when I'm adding that much pressure like I would normally be. I would just be taking the halter and trying to have her rock back through her chest. The only reason it's not my favorite way is because I really don't care for how it looks, and I don't like that it causes the horse to throw their head up and be, lifted up with their nose at first, which anytime I've seen this taught, that's how they all start. Eventually they all gentle down and you only release when they back up, when they're soft and quiet. But at the beginning, all I'm asking for is one little step back, so I don't really care about where her head is. So I'll start with teaching her the backup that way, and eventually you'll see later on in this video I can just barely move the lead rope and shake it a little bit and she'll take a quiet step back. So I work on padding, and I'm working on her seeing me in 2 eyes. So when I reach my arm over her, she's going to be seeing my hand in the opposite eye, and that's usually pretty weird for most horses. Again, I left this in because she actually reached out to sniff me, which is something she really does not do. And then I go into the backup. You can see how much nicer that step back was, and she had only worked on the backup for maybe 3 minutes. So I start really light with wiggling my rope, and if I need to, I'll intensify it, but as soon as she takes a step back, I'll drop my rope down. I go back to working with the tarp again. I'm going to drag it around as I lead her. Let her get used to it moving beside her and the noise. So I have it strung over a line next to her. And right there, something from behind, like the outside of the round pen, spooked her. So it wasn't exactly at the tarp and not super fair to her, but I do like how she handled her spook. This is great practice for dragging something too. Again, I got either a little tangled up or she got a little worried, so she yielded, which was a perfect response. If you watch her ears, you can see she's still thinking about it and a little bit worried about it, but she has her head pretty low, especially for what it's doing. It's flapping up and touching her face and her legs. This tool is really cool. Probably my favorite one if I had to pick one. So this is called the Ribbon Wand, and I've only had it for a couple months now. But they're made by, I believe, Raven's Equine Products, or Raven's Ribbon Wands. I'm not sure exactly of the name. But they sent this to me, and it's a really cool tool. I love it because of the movement, and you can also snap it like a whip. It can actually make a cracking noise, and it just gets them used to touch and feel everywhere as well as movement more than like a normal stick or whip would. And I never really even thought about having one of these. I didn't even know they existed, but I realized it's definitely a tool that I would love to use with every horse. Okay, so you saw me do her releasing her pole in the clip before this, and then right there she did try to take one advancing step towards me. So I corrected her a little bit by stepping right back up to her, making her yield her hindquarters. She wanted to blow through and track left there, but I was asking her to track right, so I'm going to follow through with what I was asking and wait for her to go. I'm going to go back to jumping around her a little bit. Getting some arm movement in today. Definitely. They're always confused the first time you do it, but now I think in real time I'm on about day 13 and I'll just randomly start like jumping and dancing near her and she has no reaction anymore. She's just like, okay, this human is crazy. I'll just deal with it. And in this session, the biggest thing I wanted to work on was unhaltering and haltering again. I just put the rope over her back as if I'm going to be taking the halter, the pole piece of the halter back over her. And she didn't really want to stand too well for this session, if I remember correctly. She was a little bit antsy, wanting to move around. She wants to come into my space quite a bit, so I know that eventually I'm going to start working on moving her front end away from me. Because you can see right there her inch closer a little bit. I'm just going to speed up these clips and put a few short ones in because I do take it on and off quite a few times. Took it off and I let her hang out without it on for a while. And this was going to be the end of the session. I was just going to come in and halter her and put her back in her pen. You can see her posture right here. She's a little bit defensive. So she went to bite me there, so I sent her off. I do wish I had a little bit quicker of a reaction to smacking on my thigh to add that energy. I did have like a second delay because I think I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. You could tell that was the second time she turned her head towards me. The first time I just tried to ignore it and keep going. And I should have probably sent her away then and had her move a little bit. But I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. Of course, it was off screen where I haltered her, but I went up to her and started rubbing her on her head with the stick again, then got the halter on. And then I felt like I just needed to do a little bit more because I didn't really like how that last haltering went.
Oh, what a grind. Life sucks, doesn't it? Life sucks. Good. girl.
I just messed with the ribbon wand a little bit more, getting it around her chest and her front legs, working on the snapping a bit. I hadn't done the snapping with it yet with her. Yeah, that was our day 6. I keep trying to want to put a couple days together in one clip, but I keep having way too much footage. If you guys want, I can either make the videos shorter and leave out some footage, not make everything quite so long and in detailed. Just let me know what you prefer in the comments. That way, I don't know if you guys enjoy watching 20-minute long videos or if you'd rather they be 10 to 15-minute long videos. And I will change how I edit them or change what I leave in them or edit out. This was day 6, and no, just for the record, she still does not have a name yet, and this goes through to day 13 that I'm currently on. She still does not have a name. But thank you for watching.